Judy stood at the end of the hallway, invisible. She wasn't hiding, not really. She was just forgotten. Laughter spilled from the living room, sharp and youthful. Her granddaughter's voice sliced through the air. "Please, Mom, don't let Grandma sit near the guests. She always says weird things." Her daughter chuckled. "I know, honey. We'll keep her in the kitchen. Just be nice, okay?" Another voice chimed in, her son-in-law. "She's harmless, just a little embarrassing." Embarrassing. That word clung to Judy's chest like smoke. Not painful enough to scream, but thick enough to choke. She turned away, moving slowly back into the guest room. It wasn't even her room. It used to be her sewing room before they cleared it out to make space for holiday decorations and storage boxes. This Christmas was supposed to be special. Her family had promised a big gathering, said they missed her, wanted to include her more. Judy had believed them. She made her famous cinnamon rolls, even though her hands ached. She pulled out the old photo albums, thinking they'd laugh over memories. Instead, they laughed at her. She sat on the edge of the small bed, the comforter too bright, too floral, picked by someone who thought old meant pink and lace. Her fingers touched the edge of the photo album she'd brought out earlier. No one had opened it. It still sat on the side table, untouched. Her eyes welled, but she blinked quickly. She had learned not to cry in front of people. They didn't understand tears past 60. They called them hormones or senility, or said she was too sensitive. But tonight, in the silence of her room, Judy let one tear fall. Just one. That was all she would give them. Because tomorrow they'd remember her. Not out of guilt, not out of pity, but because she was going to remind them exactly who she was. She reached under the bed, pulling out a small cardboard box. It was old, dust-covered, taped around the edges. A label, barely legible, read, "Do not open unless you forget who I am." Her lips curled into the faintest smile. "Looks like the time has come," she whispered. Downstairs, laughter rose again, louder this time. Someone turned on music. Her grandson, barely 13, had once asked her what a cassette was. Her granddaughter thought Judy had probably never used a phone without buttons. She had laughed it off, until tonight, until they decided she was disposable. She opened the box slowly. Inside were things they'd never seen. Medals, a folded uniform, letters, a photo of her, barely 30, standing in the middle of a war-torn field, cradling a child, blood on her hands, not her own. Another? Her holding a newborn, her daughter, next to a field hospital. A newspaper clipping. "Local nurse saves dozens in fire zone evacuation." A photo of her being hugged by a woman in a headscarf. "Thank you for bringing my baby back," the caption said. Judy pulled out the locket she hadn't worn in years. It had her husband's photo inside. He died young, too young, and she never remarried. "You're too strong for most men," her best friend once said. She never knew if that was a compliment or a curse. She put on the locket, then carefully closed the box and stood up. Her knees protested, but her spine stayed straight. Her hand went to the closet door. In the far corner sat an old suitcase. Heavy. She opened it and began to fill it with everything from the box, every piece of evidence, every shred of her forgotten history. Then she added one more thing, a letter, handwritten, addressed, "To my family, when you're ready to know me." She placed it gently on top. The music downstairs changed. Someone yelled, "Grandma, are you coming down, or what?" But Judy didn't answer. Instead, she looked at herself in the mirror. The lines on her face weren't shameful. They were maps, evidence, of grief, of courage, of love. She whispered, "You'll see me, just not in the way you think." Then she closed the closet door, locked it, and slipped the key into her apron pocket. The next morning, the house smelled of cinnamon and fresh coffee, Judy's signature scent, but no one noticed. They were too busy fixing their hair, adjusting napkins, scrolling through their phones. Her daughter, Rachel, shouted from the kitchen. "Mom, can you please not bring out that weird old album again today? We've got people coming." Judy, standing by the kettle, nodded silently. She added just a touch of honey to her tea and turned away. Rachel didn't even wait for a reply. "Also, try not to tell the story about the goat again, okay? The one in... where was it? Afghanistan? It makes people uncomfortable." Judy exhaled slowly. That goat had saved 3 children during a panic stampede. But sure, uncomfortable. Her granddaughter came in, heels clicking, eyes glued to her phone. "Grandma, if you're gonna wear that red sweater, can you, not sit near the tree? It clashes." Judy looked down at the hand-knitted sweater. Her husband gave her that sweater for their last Christmas together. It was soft, warm, and bright, like she used to be. "I'll stay out of the photos," she said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Upstairs, the closet remained locked, the suitcase untouched. But inside it waited a history none of them knew. Not yet. Not today. Judy spent most of the day doing dishes. No one asked. She just did. At one point, her grandson walked by and dropped his plate with a clatter. He didn't say thank you. He didn't look back. Just tossed, walked, disappeared. At dinner, the long table shimmered with wine glasses and gold-trimmed plates. "Let's do a toast," Rachel's husband said. "To family." They all raised glasses, except Judy. She smiled politely, then sipped her water. No one noticed, and when they brought out the dessert, Rachel giggled. "Don't worry, Mom. We didn't let you bake this year. You can just enjoy." Like she was a guest. Like she wasn't the reason this family even had traditions. Judy watched them pass plates and laugh. At one point, her granddaughter whispered something, and they all looked at Judy and chuckled. She pretended not to see, but she felt it. Every word, every look, every erasure. They were erasing her, bit by bit, quietly, politely, and now it was her turn to be quiet. But not for long. After dessert, she slipped away, back upstairs, to the closet. She sat on the edge of the bed and pulled the key from her pocket. Her fingers trembled, not from fear, but from certainty. She opened the door and pulled out the suitcase. Took the letter, reread it, then reached for the smaller box inside and removed one final item, a cassette tape inside a plastic case marked 1993. On it, a label in faded ink. For Rachel. Someday. Judy sat quietly and stared at it for a moment. Then she went to the small desk in the corner, found her old cassette recorder, popped in new batteries, and tested it. It still worked. The sound crackled, then cleared. Her voice, decades younger, filled the room. "Hi, sweetheart. If you're listening to this, you're probably angry, or confused, but I want to tell you a story." Judy's throat tightened. She turned off the tape. Not yet. Instead, she took out her phone. The one they always said she didn't know how to use. She opened her notes app, began typing. Slowly, but with purpose. Names, dates, events, proof. She saved the file and sent it to her email. Then to a secure drive. And finally, printed one single page. Just one. Enough. In the hallway, she heard footsteps. Loud ones. Her grandson opened the door without knocking. "Grandma, you coming? There's a photo thing. You gotta be in one." She stood, straightened her red sweater, slipped the page into an envelope. "I'll be right there," she said, and when she stepped into the hallway, suitcase locked behind her again, her hand tightened around the envelope. Downstairs, as the camera flashed and family members arranged themselves in perfect smiling rows, Judy stood at the edge. Her daughter waved. "Come on, Mom. Don't ruin the symmetry." She smiled, walked over, sat in the middle. She looked straight at the camera, the envelope barely visible in her hand. And when the camera clicked, she whispered to herself, "They'll never forget this one." The photo was framed and posted within the hour. Family Christmas 2024. Grateful beyond words. Rachel captioned it. Dozens of likes. Comments praising the table, the decor, the beautiful generational photo. No one mentioned Judy. She was right there, center of the image, red sweater vivid against the muted tones, but still invisible. The next morning, Rachel walked into Judy's room without knocking. Hey, Mom. I saw you brought some old stuff again. Just make sure you don't leave anything out, okay? We've got people coming over for brunch. Judy nodded. Of course. Rachel lingered, eyes narrowing. Also, what was that envelope you were holding yesterday? Judy turned slowly. Just something I wanted to pass down someday. Rachel shrugged. Okay, well, don't get dramatic. It's just brunch. And she was gone. Judy exhaled. She moved to the suitcase again, checked the contents. Still intact, still waiting. She reached for the envelope and placed it into a padded mailer this time, then added a label. To be opened if I'm gone. She hid it behind the lining of her suitcase. She knew where this was going. She wasn't foolish. They were going to ask her to leave soon. They always did after holidays. You must be tired, Mom. You probably want to rest at home. Need your own space. That space was a one-bedroom apartment she barely used. Cold, dim, impersonal. But this time, they wouldn't get ahead of her. At brunch, Rachel's husband toasted again. To family, and to new beginnings. Judy smiled. The words weren't casual. They were signals. She watched Rachel and her husband exchange glances. The same glances they gave each other before announcing things. Promotions, moves, changes that excluded her. Sure enough, later that evening, Rachel came into the kitchen, voice gentle, too sweet. Mom, I've been meaning to talk to you. Judy was washing dishes. She didn't turn around. We've been thinking, Rachel continued. Maybe you'd be more comfortable back home. We can help you pack. Judy wiped her hands and faced her daughter. When? Rachel hesitated. Well, tomorrow, maybe? Judy nodded. I'll be ready. Rachel looked surprised, almost disappointed by the lack of resistance. Okay, great. I'll have Matt bring the car around in the morning. That night, Judy didn't sleep. She sat by the window, holding a worn photo of her late husband. They think I'm furniture, she whispered. Stored, moved, forgotten. In the morning, she made breakfast. No one joined her. Matt came upstairs, took her small suitcase, just clothes, not the real one. Judy had already taken the important case to the post office at dawn. It was on its way. Destination, her old friend Sarah. The only person still alive who knew everything. She had written a note. If they ever forget me, remind them. As they drove her back to her apartment, Judy stared out the window. Rachel scrolled through her phone in the passenger seat. Matt hummed to some song. No one asked if she was okay. At the building, Matt dropped her off with a brief hug. Rachel kissed her cheek. We'll call you soon, okay? Judy smiled. I'm sure you will. She stepped out, walked slowly to the door, key in hand. They didn't wait for her to go in. The car pulled off before she turned the handle. Inside, the apartment smelled of dust and unopened windows. But she didn't mind. She dropped the decoy suitcase by the door and walked to the kitchen. On the table, she found the USB drive she had left ready. It contained everything. Scans, photos, letters, a copy of the tape, a voice recording she had made last night. My name is Judith Ellen Rayner. I was born in 1957, and this is what you never bothered to ask. Her voice on the file was steady, clear, sad, but not broken. She emailed the contents to herself, then scheduled them to send to her children in exactly 1 week. With the subject line, You forgot me, but I remember everything. A week passed. No calls, no messages, not even a, did you get home okay? The silence wasn't surprising. It was routine. Judy's apartment stayed dim, the curtains drawn just enough to let in the gray winter light. She moved slowly, deliberately, watering her plants, listening to old jazz, sipping tea from a chipped mug her husband once bought her at a roadside market. The scheduled email ticked closer. One more day. That morning, she stood in front of the mirror. Her eyes stared back, calm, tired, but alert. She reached into her jewelry box and pulled out the brooch she hadn't worn in years. A golden pin shaped like wings. It was awarded to her after the hospital bombing. No one in her family knew that story. No one had ever asked. That evening, she got a message. Not a call, just a text. From Rachel. "Hey, can you send the cinnamon roll recipe? Grace wants to try making them for school." No greeting, no, "How are you?" Just a recipe. Judy typed slowly. "Sure, I'll send it tomorrow." Then hit send. Tomorrow was the day. At exactly 10 a.m., the email would land in both her children's inboxes, Rachel and Thomas. Both of them had treated her like wallpaper. There, but never really seen. The email included a personal message. "You never asked who I was. So now I'm telling you. Not for sympathy, not for forgiveness. Just so you know the woman you erased." She didn't expect much. Maybe a confused reply, maybe silence, but not what happened next. Because by 10:04 a.m., her phone was ringing. It buzzed, lit up, vibrated off the table. Rachel, then Thomas, then Rachel again. Judy let it ring. She watched it, unmoved. Then came the texts. "What is this? Where did you get these photos? Mom, what the hell, why didn't you ever tell us?" Still, she waited. At 10:20 a.m., the doorbell rang. Judy blinked. She wasn't expecting anyone. She moved to the intercom. A familiar voice, low, careful, older. "Jude, it's Sarah." Sarah, her old friend, the only person she trusted. Judy buzzed her in. Minutes later, Sarah stood in the doorway, wrapped in a long navy coat, a box in her hands. "It came this morning," she said. "I figured you'd want it back." Judy stepped aside, let her in. They sat at the table in silence for a while, the box between them. "You mailed it with a note," Sarah said softly. "Said to deliver it back to you once it did its job." Judy nodded. "It did." Sarah studied her face. "They called me." "What did you say?" Judy asked. "I told them to come see you, to sit down, shut up, and listen for once." Judy smiled faintly. "They won't." Sarah raised a brow. "Oh, I think they will. You shook something. Hard." Judy sipped her tea. "Maybe, but this wasn't about shaking them. It was about remembering me." Sarah opened the box, pulled out the uniform. "I forgot how fierce you were in this." Judy looked at the fabric. "I wasn't fierce. I was terrified. Every day." Sarah touched her hand. "That's why you were fierce." The doorbell rang again, loud, impatient. Then, soft, a knock, followed by Rachel's voice. "Mom, please open the door." Judy didn't move. She sat still, fingers wrapped tightly around her teacup, eyes fixed on the door but saying nothing. Rachel knocked again, softer now. "Mom, I didn't know. None of us did." Sarah leaned forward, whispering. "You don't have to let her in if you're not ready." Judy stood up slowly, walked to the door, and unlocked it. Rachel stood in the hallway, hair disheveled, cheeks blotchy, holding her phone like a shield. Her eyes scanned the room, landing first on Sarah, then on the box. "Is it true?" she asked. Her voice wavered, caught somewhere between disbelief and guilt. Judy didn't answer right away. She walked past Rachel, motioned for her to come in, then sat down again, slowly, her knees aching with the kind of heaviness no one ever asked about. Rachel stepped inside, stiff, as if unsure how to breathe. "The photo of the little girl, the one you carried out of the ruins, was that real?" Judy looked at her daughter. "Yes." Rachel swallowed. "And the medals?" "Real. The newspaper article, the tape, all of it?" "All of it." Silence stretched between them, brittle and sharp. Then Rachel sat down, slowly, cautiously. Why didn't you ever tell us? Judy tilted her head, her voice calm. When? Rachel blinked. I don't know. When we were kids? When we got older? Judy set her cup down. Do you remember your 8th birthday? Rachel frowned. The one with the clown? Judy nodded. You asked me why my hands were scarred. I told you it was from baking. You laughed, said it made sense because I was always in the kitchen, and I never corrected you. Rachel looked down at her lap. I don't remember that. I do, Judy said. I remember every time I chose to stay silent so you could feel safe. Every time I erased myself so you could feel proud of who you were. Rachel's voice cracked. We never meant to erase you. Judy looked her in the eye. But you did. Sarah stood quietly, moved to the window, gave them space. Rachel took a shaky breath. I called Thomas. He's coming. Why? Judy asked. Because I think we owe you a real conversation. You think one conversation will fix this? Judy's tone wasn't cruel. It was tired, honest. No, Rachel said softly. But it might be a start. Another knock, this time firmer. Thomas. Judy opened the door herself. He looked different, pale, sweaty, like someone had told him the earth wasn't round. Hey, Mom, he muttered. Hi, she said, stepping aside. He entered, looked around, saw the box, the medals, the opened envelope on the table. I thought you were just quiet, not someone who... His voice trailed off. Saved lives? Judy offered. He nodded. I saw the video, the one from the embassy. That was the last time I ran, she said. I tore my hip. It never healed right. Rachel covered her mouth with her hand. Thomas stared at the floor. We thought you were just our mom, you know? Quiet, a little weird, always baking, always tired. You never asked why? Judy said. You assumed. He nodded. We did. Then Rachel's voice broke. Is it too late? Judy didn't answer. Instead, she stood, walked to the box, pulled out the tape recorder. She hit play. And the room filled with her younger voice, strong and calm. Rachel, Thomas, if you're hearing this, it means you finally noticed the silence. I was never trying to be a mystery. I just stopped offering myself where no one cared to look. The room was frozen. Her children sat motionless, listening to their mother from another time. I loved you so much that I made myself small so you could grow. But I won't stay small anymore. The tape ended. A click echoed in the silence. Rachel wiped her eyes quickly, as if embarrassed by the emotion. Thomas leaned back in the chair, arms crossed, gaze distant. Sarah stood in the corner, quiet as ever, watching it all unfold like a witness to something sacred and long overdue. Judy didn't speak. She let the weight of her words settle in their bones. Finally, Thomas broke the silence. Why didn't Dad ever talk about any of this? Judy glanced at him. He wanted to, but I asked him not to. Why? Because I was tired of being a story. I wanted to be a person, a mom, a wife, just normal. Rachel frowned. But you weren't normal. You were everything. Judy smiled faintly. Too late for poetry, Rachel. Thomas rubbed his face. You think we're terrible kids. I think, Judy said slowly, you're grown people who got comfortable not asking questions. That's different. Rachel stood abruptly, pacing. I don't know how to feel. I mean, how do you go from thinking your mom is just a sweet old woman who collects teacups to a war medic with classified letters and trauma scars? You feel? Judy said calmly. That's all. You don't have to understand it all today. Thomas looked at the medals. This one, what was it for? Judy reached over, picked it up. Evacuation under fire. I pulled 12 people out before the building collapsed. They gave me that 2 months before I quit. Rachel stared. You never told anyone? I did, Judy said. Once. To a journalist. He called me a female war angel in his article, then asked me to smile for the camera like I was Miss America. I packed up the uniform that night and never wore it again. Silence again. Heavier this time. Rachel sat down. Her voice was smaller now. I'm sorry we made you feel like nothing. Judy's eyes softened. You didn't make me feel like nothing. I chose to become invisible, but I didn't expect you to stop looking altogether. Thomas reached for the envelope she had labeled, "To my family." He held it for a moment, then passed it back to her. We don't deserve to open it. Judy didn't take it. You already did. It was never about the paper. It was about whether you'd show up. Rachel's phone buzzed on the table. She ignored it. What happens now? She asked. Judy stood up slowly, walked to the window. That depends. Are you here to remember me? Or to fix your image of me? We're here to know you, Thomas said firmly. Finally. Judy turned. Then stay. Listen. I'll tell you everything. The blood, the fear, the night I thought I wouldn't make it back to you. I'll tell you how I used to hear your voices in my dreams just to stay awake when the bombs fell. Rachel covered her face again. Her shoulders shook. And when I'm done, Judy added, you'll either see me or you won't. But at least I won't be a ghost in your house anymore. Outside, snow began to fall, light and silent. Judy watched it, then turned back to them. Do you want to hear how your father proposed? It wasn't romantic. I was covered in dirt and holding a scalpel. Rachel and Thomas both nodded, wordless, and Judy began to speak. Judy spoke for hours. Her voice didn't shake, didn't rise. It was even, steady, like a woman who had held too many lives in her hands to be afraid of telling the truth. She told them about the day she arrived in the combat zone, young and trembling, the heat pressing against her lungs, the sound of gunfire closer than she expected. She spoke of makeshift clinics, of sewing wounds under flashlight beams, of babies born in tents, and how one of them didn't make it, and how she still remembered the mother's scream. Rachel cried quietly, curled into herself on the couch, her daughter's polished nails now digging into her own palms. Thomas didn't say much. His face was pale, his jaw locked, but he didn't look away once. Judy told them about their father, how he had come to visit on a supply run, how he carried a tin of cookies from home and made her laugh so hard she dropped a syringe, how they danced barefoot on concrete under a broken ceiling fan while others slept through exhaustion. She told them about the time they were ambushed, and she had to crawl a full mile with a dislocated shoulder, carrying a boy no older than Thomas's son now. She never said she was a hero. She never called herself brave. I was just doing what needed to be done, she said. Like laundry, like making dinner, like motherhood. The snow outside thickened, quieting the street, painting the windows with soft white light. Sarah had left an hour ago after kissing Judy's hand and whispering, You did it, Jude. You made them see. Now it was just the three of them. The old clock ticked like a heartbeat. Judy stood and stretched, her joints protesting. That's enough for one night. Rachel looked up, her voice raw. Can I stay? Judy blinked. Here? Yeah, I don't want to go yet. Judy looked at Thomas. He nodded. Me neither. She gave them blankets, made tea, watched as they curled up like children again, not on her terms, but for the first time, truly present. At midnight, she walked to the closet and opened the small box again. She didn't need the contents anymore. They had served their purpose. Still, she lifted one photo, herself, standing in the middle of rubble, face smudged, eyes alive, and held it close. You kept me going, she whispered. Then she turned out the light. In the morning, she woke to the smell of coffee, her kitchen, but someone else was making it. Rachel stood barefoot, stirring a pot. I found your beans, she said. Hope that's okay. Judy nodded slowly. It is. Thomas was folding the blanket. Mom, I have a question. She raised a brow. Just one? He smiled sheepishly. For now. What do you want for your birthday this year? Judy looked out the window, then back at them. I want to be invited. Not out of duty, but because you see me. Rachel placed a mug in front of her. You're seen, Mom. You're seen now. And for the first time in years, Judy believed it. 2 weeks later, Judy stood in her kitchen, watching the snow melt into gray slush outside. It was quiet, but not the same kind of quiet as before. Now it felt chosen, peaceful. Her phone buzzed, a message from Rachel. Can we come by later? Grace wants to talk to you about her school project. Judy replied simply. Of course. She turned back to the stove, stirring soup, her thoughts calm but alert. The doorbell rang earlier than she expected. She wiped her hands and opened it, expecting Rachel, maybe Grace. But it was Thomas, alone, holding something, a framed picture. She stepped aside to let him in. Found this in the attic, he said. It was tucked behind some old books. I think Dad hid it. Judy took the frame gently. It was the original newspaper article, faded, edges yellowed, but preserved. Her younger self looked out from the print, fierce and steady. He used to read this when he missed you, Thomas said. I remember once he fell asleep with it on his chest. Judy touched the glass. He always said he married me because I looked like trouble. Thomas laughed. He wasn't wrong. They sat in the living room. You were never going to tell us, were you? He asked. I wanted to, she said. But every time I thought about it, I saw the way you looked at me, like I was soft, like I was background, and I didn't want to lose even that. You didn't lose us, Mom. You just scared us. Judy turned to him. Why? Because we didn't know how to see you as more than our mother. And when you showed us everything else, we didn't know what to do with it. You didn't have to do anything, she said. You just had to not look away. The doorbell rang again. This time it was Rachel and Grace. Grace rushed in, holding a notebook. Grandma, I have to do a project on a real-life hero. Mom said I could talk to you. Judy smiled. A hero, huh? Yeah. Someone brave. Someone who saved people. Judy looked at her daughter, who was watching silently, almost holding her breath. Well, Judy said, I suppose I can tell you a few stories. Grace sat cross-legged on the rug, notebook open, pencil ready. Okay, start with the most dangerous thing you ever did. Judy laughed softly. That's easy. I once gave a doctor orders in front of a general. Rachel smiled. Thomas chuckled, and Grace gasped. What did he do? The general? Judy leaned in. He backed off. Grace scribbled furiously. Judy kept talking. The house filled with stories, real ones, painful ones, beautiful ones. No one interrupted. No one looked away. The sun began to set, painting the kitchen in gold. When Grace finally closed her notebook, she whispered, Grandma, you're way cooler than anyone I know. Judy touched her cheek. That's our secret, okay? Grace nodded solemnly. Rachel helped clean up without being asked. Thomas folded the blankets again. Before leaving, Rachel turned at the door. You want to come to our place for dinner Sunday? Judy raised a brow. You sure I won't embarrass anyone? Rachel smiled. Only if you don't come. Judy nodded. Then I'll be there. Sunday came with soft light and the smell of roasted rosemary chicken. Judy stood at the front door of her daughter's house, holding a small paper bag filled with warm cinnamon rolls. She had made them early that morning, by hand, the way her grandmother taught her. Rachel opened the door, already in an apron, her face lit up in a way Judy hadn't seen in years. You're early, she said with a smile. Couldn't stay away, Judy replied. Rachel took the bag. Are these the real ones? Mom? Rachel looked genuinely touched. Thank you. Inside, the house was warm, music playing softly in the background. Not loud, Not flashy, just calm, like something was finally in balance. Grace ran up and hugged Judy around the waist. "Everyone at school loved my project," she said proudly. "Mrs. Carter said you should come speak at assembly." Judy blinked. "An assembly?" "Yeah, about bravery and stuff." Judy laughed. "Let me think about it." Thomas arrived shortly after, carrying a bottle of wine and his old camera. "I figured we should take a proper photo. One that doesn't leave anyone out." Rachel nodded. "This time, you're front and center, Mom." Judy looked around the room. Everything looked the same, but felt completely different. Not because of the decorations or the food or the music, but because they were finally seeing her. Dinner was simple, delicious, peaceful. They didn't ask her to sit in the kitchen. They didn't change the subject when she spoke. They listened. They asked questions, real ones, about her work, her fears, her memories. At one point, Rachel said, "Do you still have that uniform?" Judy nodded. "It's packed away." "You should wear it. Just once. For Grace. For us." Judy looked down at her hands. "Maybe. Someday." Later that night, after dessert and too many stories, Thomas set up the camera on a tripod. "Everyone in," he called. "No arguing." They gathered on the couch, Rachel on one side, Thomas on the other. Grace curled up at Judy's feet. The camera flashed, then again, and again. Judy didn't realize she was smiling until Thomas showed her the screen. "That's the one," he said. "You look like someone who remembers everything, but isn't angry anymore." Judy touched his hand. "That's because I'm not angry, just finally whole." When they said their goodbyes, Rachel lingered. "I was thinking," she said softly, "maybe next month, you could move in, just for a while. We'll make space." Judy raised a brow. "In the kitchen?" Rachel laughed. "Number in the guest room, with your books, your photos, your tea." Judy considered. "Let's see how Sunday dinners go first." Rachel nodded. "Fair." Judy walked home slowly. The air was cool but not biting. The city felt familiar again. Not because it had changed, but because she had. She wasn't waiting anymore. She wasn't shrinking anymore. She was her own story. And for the first time in decades, they were reading it. Spring came slowly. The snow gave way to buds on the trees, and the light through Judy's windows grew warmer, softer. She spent her mornings in silence, not out of loneliness, but choice. Her days had shape now, rhythm, purpose. Grace came every Saturday, sometimes to help with baking, sometimes just to sit and ask questions about war, about love, about life before phones. One afternoon, she brought a box of paints. "I told my teacher you used to draw," she said. "I thought maybe we could try?" Judy hadn't painted in over 20 years, but she sat at the table, picked up a brush, and let the colors come back to her like old friends. Rachel called more often now. Short calls at first, then longer ones. She started asking about things, not just logistics, but memories. "What was Dad really like when I was little? What did you dream about before we were born?" Judy answered everything, not with resentment, but calm grace. One Sunday, Thomas brought a framed photo, their newest family portrait. Judy in the middle, hands folded, eyes bright. Grace had drawn a tiny gold medal at the bottom and written, "My hero." That night, Judy opened the closet. The uniform still hung there, clean, pressed, untouched. She took it down, held it against her chest, and smiled. Not with sadness, with recognition. She folded it carefully, placed it in a shadow box, and hung it above her writing desk. Let them see it now. Let it be part of her story, not buried beneath it. On her birthday, they surprised her. Dinner. Candles. A cake shaped like a book. "Because you're the best story we never read," Rachel said through tears. Thomas gave a toast. "To the woman who taught us how to fight without raising her voice. To the mother who gave us everything, even when we didn't deserve it. Judy didn't cry. She didn't need to. She looked around the table and felt for the first time like she belonged. Not as a decoration, not as a burden, but as herself. After everyone left, she sat by the window, a cup of tea in her hand, moonlight brushing her face. She thought about the letter in her suitcase, the one marked, "To be opened if I'm gone." She opened the suitcase, pulled it out, and tore it in half. She didn't need it anymore. They knew her now. They saw her now. And if they ever forgot again, well, they'd have to face her, not her ghost. She lit a candle, placed it by the window, and whispered to the night, "I never needed to be honored. Just remembered." The flame flickered gently. Outside, the wind moved through the trees, and inside, Judy smiled. She had left no revenge, only truth. And truth finally had done what bitterness never could. It had set her free.